Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to or watching the Powercast. And this week we will be recapping Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Season 3, Episode 4. And the title of the episode is In Sheep's Clothing. And today I'm off camera. That is because I just had my treatment and I am a little drowsy at the moment. So, but I am at least here, to do the show because couldn't miss this one. But I'm joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr., of course. How are you doing today, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And we are also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie. And how are you doing, Dana?
I'm doing fantastic. The show is wonderful. I'm terrified of Ronnie. I feel it in my bones.
Oh yeah, Ronnie's a scary guy. But before we get into that, though, I just wanted to give you props, Dana, on the Bettina Miller interview that you just posted because that was a great interview. So well
Thank
done.
you.
How did
Thank
it
you
feel
very
to
much.
talk to Raquel?
It felt good. You know what's really interesting is I love Bettina and Raquel are two separate people. And, it's kind of weird talking about, and are you going to kill him? Are you going to get that? What about the money? And then when you speak to Patina, it's like so prim and proper. I just love when actors are able to portray a character that's so different than who they are. And then also, I'm coming at it as well because she's also a Broadway star. So to see those different facets, she just got off of her run with Into the Woods. So she can bounce from the Raquel mindset to Into the Woods to like singing Sondheim. So I love her so, so much. And she gave so much with her answers. I wish I had a longer interview, stars. I would like a longer interview, but she gave so much with her answers that it's just I love when actors do that because sometimes you really meet those actors who just give those one words yes, no, and it's like you're fighting for your life just to get something out of them. But for her, she was so giving, and I love that. And in my head, we're starring in musical theater together, doing some kind of project. We're doing Raising Kanan, the musical, together in my head.
Mm. Yeah, oh, they could definitely do a musical with Jukebox. But
That would actually be really good. Like, because remember the two, oh, you don't know because you live in the UK, but they had like a Tupac musical that Chadwick Boseman was in, rest in peace. And so they can easily kind of transform a Raising Kanan, the 90s, into a musical with R&B and rap instead of like the standard musical. Oh my gosh, don't get me thinking. Now I'm happy.
oh yeah, maybe that's something that can happen. But that was a great interview, so everyone go check it out. Bettina Miller clearly cares about the character she's portraying. And Dana, I would advise you to check your backpack, after that interview, because there might be a little surprise in there, you never know.
You
So
know, I'll talk about this later, but I was so upset about that because it's like maybe because I'm always such a mess when I have to get ready that I'm double and triple checking my backpacks and things, and I feel like I'm missing something. That I'm just so it's so interesting how he just never checked the backpack. So it's like, are you really in school? What about the books? What about homework? What about notes? And he never checked it. So, how do you make sure you have your keys? Where are your keys? Because sometimes I put my keys in my backpack. I'm floored. And she's terrible for that. I'm floored.
yeah, just don't go through no metal detectors, so and you're good. But yeah, so we are here to talk about this episode. A lot happened. There's a lot to unpack here. So before we get to the takeaways, just a quick reminder to everyone. Definitely if you support the show, hit that like button. It's very important. Also, you could share the video as well. If you have other people that watch Power, share the video with them. Leave your comments. Let us know your theories. and subscribe to the channel also, and then there's also the Coalition Entertainment and the Coalition Gaming. So go ahead and check out those channels also for additional content. But yeah, with that being said, we're going to get right into our takeaways now, because there is a lot to unpack here, like I said. And this week it is my turn to go first. So let me jump right into it. Okay, so let me start with the girl group, right? Jukebox, she officially got accepted into the girl group, and we meet the other two girls. I mean, we already saw them previously when they were doing the auditions. But yeah, you have the leader Crystal, and then you have Aisha, and Jukebox is the third member. And my thinking is that this group is gonna present Jukebox with some serious challenges. We already kind of see the dynamics at the moment where Crystal, the leader, she's very like she's very she has like a me complex. She's self-absorbed. She sees herself as the leader, and it seems like she might be a bit judgmental already of her partners, in the group, Jukebox and Aisha. So I want to see how that dynamic is going to play out, because Jukebox is someone who she's not known to back down from anyone. So I want to see what would happen if she clashes with Crystal in any way. And then on top of that, you have what is her role? Like, you have the is it a manager, or the group leader, the boss, if you will,
Manager. She's the
manager,
manager. We'll get into that later because she's a very specific manager that because you're
right?
UK you don't understand. But haha, sorry.
What is she from? Something else? Is she?
My my takeaway is that she's the iteration of Pebbles, who yeah, Bridget knows that's Pebbles. That's that dirty, grimy, allegedly, manager who used to manage say, groups like TLC and everything else. There was a lot of
Oh,
things with pregnancies and messed up stuff, and that means it's gonna get good. And now I understand jukebox mindset with what may happen. I'm like, nah, I don't want nothing to do with music. But this is your turn. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop.
oh, Pebbles. I've heard the name, but yeah, I don't know all the stories. But yeah, that manager I feel like is going to be a problem also, because we see that she kind of switches it up. Like, at first she's happy, with Juke when she goes to visit Jukebox and give her the news. She seems happy. She seems pleasant. But as soon as the group has like signed the papers and it's ready to get started, she kind of switches up a little bit, and she seems very controlling now. So we could see already that this is going to be a very intense situation for Jukebox. Like, and the contrast is there because, earlier in the episode, she was, obviously she was at the military checkup or whatever. So like, to me, that's the perfect contrast, because this group seems like it's going to be like the military, with how much pressure it's going to be to perform, and to stay at the top level and everything. Because we do know that these managers, they can be very strict, because everything has to be perfect. All the routines, all the vocals. You can't get up on the stage and be half stepping. You have to really be at 100% at all times to be that dominant super group, or talent, if you will. So there is a lot of pressure on these groups, these girl groups, boy groups. Like, everything has to be perfect, so there is a lot of effort. And Jukebox, she's still kind of young at this point, so this is going to be a big strain for her. It's going to be a big reality check. We know she's got the talent, but is she going to be able to handle what comes with it? What comes with having that talent? So I'm very interested to see how this turns out, and if they use this as a way to highlight some of these issues that has happened in the real music industry, like Dana alluded to, the whole Pebbles thing. If they use this as a story to kind of highlight that, that would be excellent because yeah, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes to, all of these great talents that we love and enjoy, Destiny's Child, TLC, or all of the big bands, and groups from the past. Like a lot went into that, New Edition, they had a show also, so yeah, this will be very interesting to see, and especially seeing how it affects Jukebox's development. So yeah, I can't wait for that. Second takeaway, yeah. So speaking of Raquel, so what she did to Kanan was devious, planting the gun in his backpack so that he gets caught, and just the way, like, because there's a moment where you see her watching, when she's at the school, basically checking up on Kanan, after he goes into the school. There's that moment where she watches him going through the metal detector, and you just see it click in her mind, like, and then like just seeing her putting it all together, from when she goes to see Famous, and she bribes him not to say anything, and she puts the gun in the bag and everything. And then, there's even that scene later where she's with Unique and she tells him, like, oh, Kanan's coming home. Maybe we should put this on ice a little bit, and cut, stop this or put this on pause or whatever, and it's like she's so self-assured that she knows Kanan is coming back now. And it hasn't even happened yet, he hasn't even been caught yet, but she's so self-assured that he's finally coming home. It's just, I just love seeing the whole dynamic with Raquel and Kanan, because the thing is, you could justify some of her actions because seeing Kanan hang with these boys that look a bit older, and they have bikes and pagers, what mother wouldn't be worried or concerned about that, So she's kind of justified for worrying about him and not wanting him to be in danger, but it's just how she chooses to go about it that's very deceptive. And if Caden does find out, he's not gonna let it live down. He's not gonna live it down if he finds out. He's gonna be even more upset with her than he already is. Um, and yeah, like if it reaches that point to where he's so done with her that he just doesn't care anymore, then that is going to be dangerous for everyone, So she better hope that he doesn't find out. But I do have a question about that later on for you guys because I want to see what you guys have to say about it. But yeah, that was a very interesting development. And that made me think about Dana's interview as well, because there was the question about, is she manipulative? And I definitely think that is part of her character. But then, Bettina Miller, she sees it as, she's also, it's also because she cares about Kanan. So, it comes off manipulative, but to her, to the character Raquel, it's just she cares so much about Kanan that she doesn't see, what she's doing, kind of thing. So yeah, but yeah, she plays that role just so well, and I just love seeing how she carries these things off without even a second thought, and she's so like confident and sure of herself as well. Even when she's talking to Howard, and Howard's like, oh, you need to be careful because the feds are, they're onto you and all this stuff. And, she basically says, oh, well, they ain't going to find nothing. They ain't going to find much because she knows that she's not really doing any dirt at the moment. So she's like so sure about it, that confidence that she has is like, it, it's like, it's very interesting to watch. Like, so yeah, that's the second takeaway. And finally, of course, we have to talk about Ronnie, you know. So Ronnie, his quest for finding a plug should have everyone shook right now because clearly this guy is not going to stop. He's not going to give up. We see him. He kind of visits every kind of plug or major player. He goes to see Deen. He goes to see Juliana and her brother. So clearly he wants back in the game. Oh, and he goes to see the new characters, which happen to be his old friends. Old friends of his, and they basically tell him, yeah, we'll invest in your venture. I mean, there is a moment where they tell him maybe you should wait for Unique, your brother, to put you on or whatever, but Ronnie makes it clear that he doesn't want to wait for that. So they say, okay, we'll invest if you can find someone to give you products, then we'll invest in it, and then you pay us back later, basically. So yeah, that begins his quest to kind of find the plug or whatever, if you will. And you also see in this episode where Unique is talking to Raquel. Clearly he doesn't even see Ronnie as being someone to put on, because he tells Raquel that he's good for a specific kind of job or a specific kind of purpose. So that tells me that Unique sees Ronnie as somebody like maybe muscle or something. Like he sees him as like a hitman or a muscle type person. He doesn't see him as someone who should be in charge of the drugs or whatever. So there's a complete you know disconnect there between Unique and Ronnie in what they want to do. So Ronnie wants to be in position, he wants to be in charge, whereas Unique kind of wants him to stay at a certain level. And maybe that's because Ronnie already got locked up. So maybe he sees Ronnie as reckless and dangerous and that he shouldn't be in charge. So that's interesting. But Ronnie is not going to stop at this point, and Unique is the younger brother. And I know that oftentimes, the older brother doesn't want to listen to the younger brother because, you know, the older brother might think that he knows it all, or he has more experience, or he might see it as a slight to himself to admit that the younger brother knows something that he doesn't. So there's that whole dynamic there of them being brothers that kind of gets in the way. It builds a wall between them because Ronnie has his pride. And then, we see that he gets into a heated exchange with Deen at the bingo hall. And, you know, Deen basically tells him, look, I don't mess with you or your brother, so you're not getting anything from me. And then he asks his guard to kind of, escort or get Ronnie out of here. And this is after they put a gun to him and everything. I mean, Ronnie was the one that escalated it by grabbing Deen. So, that's his fault, but they put a gun to him and everything. And yeah, so that's strike one right there, because Ronnie did not like that. He did not like how that conversation went. And then for Deen to go and tell Unique what happened, that was the icing on the cake. I'm sure that was the moment when Ronnie was like, okay, that's it. Deen is gone. Um, so yeah, at the end, we see he takes out Deen in a very savage way. It's even more savage with the fact that he did it right where the grandmother was. Luckily, she didn't have her hearing aid on, so she didn't know anything what was going on. But it's going to be very sad for her when she gets up and discovers the body. But that's going to be a very sad thing, sad sight to see. But yeah, at least she didn't hear it though. So yeah, but that was a very savage murder. So yeah, Deen is no more. And I guess that leaves only two sources for Deen to kind of get the drugs from. And that's Juliana and her brother, or the Italians, I guess. So so yeah, like I wonder what path he's gonna take. There was a bit of a look between Ronnie and Juliana that I noticed. So I feel like they will come into contact again at some point. So, I wonder maybe he's going to go that path of working with Juliana because, we know Juliana has some unresolved issues with Unique. So if there's some sort of beef, between Ronnie and Unique, you know, maybe Juliana will actually side with Ronnie. So that will be interesting to see. But yeah, those are my takeaways. I'm very interested to see what you guys have to say about this episode because there was so much to talk about. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to mention as well. Because Aisha, the one of the girls from the group, she actually mentioned Native Tongues, which is like a real group of artists that were popular. And I actually did an interview recently with one of them, which was Drez from Black Sheep. So that was a nice little mention there because that was the exact era where they were popular. So you could go check out that interview on the entertainment channel. But yeah, like I just thought it was cool that she mentioned Native Tongues in the episode. So yeah, that's another little tidbit there. But those are my takeaways. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about this because there's a lot of little details in there to pick up on. And Dana, I know Dana has a very analytical mind. So I'm going to throw it right over to Dana because it is her turn next for the
It is
takeaways.
my turn. I will piggyback off of some of the things that you said just to provide a much little larger context. Because if that's Pebbles, this is gonna be so good. This is gonna be delicious. Um, but I found it really interesting. Like how it always starts off with that monologue at the very beginning, and so we saw the delivery guy who was the weed Uber. Oh, smoke and eat. That's my new name. Anyway, so for the weed delivery guy, he was being chased by the police on the scooter, and it was a very exciting police chase. But 50 Cent's voiceover did say everyone is trying to be the fastest, but you move too fast, you make mistakes. You don't have time to fix those mistakes because you're moving quicker than you should already. Speed doesn't mean anything if you don't know where you're going. And this is essentially saying you need to have a plan. You need to know the steps that you take and plan things out. And yes, you may be caught up in the excitement of things going so quickly and good for you that you're not able to see your blind sides. And so for me, that spoke a lot to how Kanan is moving, how Raquel is moving. And it made me wonder a little bit about Marvin and Lulu. So with the whole Kanan situation, we saw that his Uber Eats delivery service is working very well, right? The people are calling in. We saw that Famous was completely overwhelmed. They're saying they need a new pager. They're talking about switchboards, and things are just moving really quickly. But here's who it's not moving for, and who could have the power to really make this business not work in the future. It's not necessarily Raquel, but it's Paul, the man who was the white guy, who originally had the courier service, was doing regular deliveries. His business is being completely taken away because of how Kanan is moving. And the guys are wanting to work with Kanan instead of him. Oh, they're quitting and it's just not working out for him. And so Kanan gives him a little bit amount of money. And as he's saying, this is not enough to cover anything. I can't do anything with this. And so I wonder if that is going to be Kanan's blind spot. In order for this guy to eat and for his family to eat in his business, he said, I don't want this touching my business. Who is he? Is he willing to turn in Kanan and even damage himself and his reputation in order to get back at Kanan because he's taking away his livelihood? So that I wonder if he's going to, come back later episodes where he's the one who's like, yeah, Kanan did this and this and this, and he took the guys with this, so let me show you the system. Because he knows how everything is run. And kind of what we saw with the police with Rock, you have to be able to pay people and to pay people properly for their silence. And that's not happening. Another thing with that of people maybe moving too fast could be I don't believe that Marvin and Lulu are moving fast. I think that they're probably doing everything according to plan. And kind of what I like, especially with Marvin's character, is you know how we had like, oh, him and the guy who was in the wheelchair, he learned how to not run off at the mouth but probably shoot him, and how that's able to help him later on when he was in that shootout when he got shot and it saved his life. Now we go to Gerald. What's interesting about that was Gerald works for The Voice, which is an actual newspaper, not the Village Voice. There's one called The Voice. And we come to find out that he was he's an entertainment editor in that newspaper, which I believe Richard or one of the two of you called out and said, "Oh, he's going to probably be able to help." Um, it was you. Look at you, raise that hand and be proud. Gold star for you. So he's probably able to help out Jukebox in the future. And now that we learned that Jukebox is being a part of this group called Bada, remember with a A, Bada. It's kind of the same way Gary pronounces everything that has to do with the ER, Bada. So um, we can probably see him connecting the dots with him and Jukebox. And also, what's interesting is that their relationship, they're beneficial for both. And that was also what happened with him and the guy who was in the wheelchair. It wasn't really a friendship, it was like a situationship and how it became beneficial. With Gerald, they're basically each other's sponsors. You know, anytime that you have a problem, or I feel like I need a drink, I feel like I need some crack, I don't know, you go and you have a conversation. And because of the group being disbanded from the AA meetings that they had previously, or NA, or one of the meetings, that they're gonna kind of confide in each other. I wonder if to be negative, because I don't like to be negative because everything is working so great when it comes to Marvin and Lulu and everything, but I don't trust happiness, which is why when Unique smiled, not Unique, when what's that girl's name? Jukebox smiled. She was smiling this episode. I said, "Oh, we in trouble." But what's interesting with this one is that he does work. He's a journalist, and I wonder through this friendship and confiding in Gerald, will that end up to him writing stories about it? um, in terms of, is he going to just stick to the entertainment aspect, or is he going to be like, I'm with this guy who was a drug dealer, and you know what I mean, kind of shed light on his drug business. And so that makes me a little leery, it makes me a little scared. So I don't know where that relationship, it seems positive right now, it seems beneficial right now, and it could help out Jukebox and Butter right now, but long term, I'm wondering what that plan is. Is it gonna bite him in the butt later on? Um, so that's something to look forward to. Then we have to go with this group that you touched upon, which is Butter, and with them, it seemed really happy and really positive, and things can be moving so quickly. You sign to this group, you're singing songs, you're in the studio every day, but what's happening later on, I don't know. We know what the initial goal is, to be superstars, right? To be this singing group, this mammoth group, but there's a lot of sacrifices that we know in general when it comes to music, and we know what ends up happening to Jukebox. We just don't know what is the impact in between and how the beginning impacts the end. With that being said, this new character, if she, to me, she gave me Pebble vibes. And for those who don't know Pebbles, this is all allegedly. This is not proven, allegedly, because Pebbles is also very quick with lawsuits. Um, Pebbles was the manager for TLC. Long story short, she mismanaged allegedly a lot of their money, which is why TLC was bankrupt. Remember that infamous video of them breaking down the money and explaining how many records they sold, but they only got pennies off of that, and how why they're the top selling girl group of that time, they was bringing home maybe $50. So a lot of it is alleged that Pebbles mismanaged a lot of the money. There was a lot of animosity that Pebbles had towards this group. Um, There was one instance where she accused Chili of TLC of sleeping with her husband, who was L.A. Reid at the time, allegedly. So if we go in the inspired by storyline, this group can get very spicy. And Jukebox may end up being so turned off by it that she walks away from it. I don't know. What is really interesting is how they kept reiterating boyfriend and pregnancy. Remember when she was at the getting the physical in order to pass the military guideline test thing? Um, they were very nasty. I caught that little small microaggression that they had with the doctor of about being pregnant. Oh, you don't want to show up pregnant. You don't know about being pregnant. Kind of giving that stereotype. Those fast black girls always pregnant. I did not like that at all. But they don't know. Also on top of that, and she kept saying, "Trust me, I won't," because they don't know that she is a lesbian. She has no interest in men at all. So it's her being a lesbian, and also when I'm gonna just call her Pebble-esque, um, when she was talking to the girls, and she was like, you can't. There's no time for family, no time for friends, no time for boyfriends. And you saw Jukebox kind of look down, which by the way they called her Boombox, which is the inspiration of the socially maladjusted Boombox over here. I kind of like that as well. But it's gonna be really interesting to see the dynamic between the three of the girls. I know you call her a bit. You don't like the main girl. I just think she's really ambitious, and you cannot get to the big fame of it all without believing in yourself. So she may come across as harsh, but she may be the Beyonce of the group. I don't know. Who knows? Um, but that dynamic was really interesting, and kind of we're gonna see how these girls kind of play off of each other, which should be another aspect that's interesting as well, and how they end up involving themselves in their lives. We saw this was like kind of like the first time that I saw Jukebox just have this open conversation about music when she was talking about the native tongues. And I really like that about her education in music as well. So that was also a lot of fun. I just wanted to say really quickly, this is just me and my interpretation and my wish and fulfillment. The girls groups are, we know of Jukebox, right? But we have Crystal and Aisha. Crystal made me think of Crystal Waters, which is from the 80s, 90s. Aisha made me think of, remember Another Bad Connection? Aisha, you're the girl I never had. So if that's the case and they was thinking that way, very smart on them. So I liked how they put that whole thing together, if that is the case. Another thing that I really wanted to bring out was also the fact that we have, oh, we already kind of talked about Ronnie. Ronnie just genuinely scares me. And I feel that he's someone who, if you have a conversation with, he's going to remember that conversation, even say 20 years later. He is someone who I don't want to label him, but I am very just genuinely scared. Unique kind of put it very interesting where Ronnie's very good at his job, but the problem is we have to find out what that job is. He's only good at very specific things. And as we saw, he is not a people person at all. He does not like to be touched. He kind of gives you that look of complete discomfort when you're near him, when you're even talking to him or breathing or existing, but especially touch. He does not seem to like that. He kind of like freaks out a little bit with that. I love the actor and how he's able to act with his body because that is something that it just came so naturally. These small little cues. But anybody, it seems that he has a disagreement with, he is going to kill them. And therefore, I am worried about. We already saw what happened with Deen. Blessings to Grandma not being able to hear. Again, that's going to be a horrific sight when she turns around because, like, you've been in the kitchen so long, baby. And she gets up and she sees that. I hope she does not have a heart attack because that's a whole crime committed that she just did not hear. So I feel really sad for that character. On top of that, we had the two brother and sister I call them the twins. I forgot what their names are, but what's very interesting is the woman. She kept looking at him. So I think that maybe one, they're going to end up in some kind of business connection right there, and two, this makes me interested to see maybe the brother gets killed and the sister takes his place. I just wonder. I don't know. But to me, it just feels like anyone who has a disagreement with that. And sorry, with Deen out of the picture, the other people who sassed him, and especially who really sassed him hard, was Unique when he said, "You ain't poop." And he gave him that death stare. And that to me was such a wonderful moment because they didn't break at all. They kept staring at each other until the scene literally had to end. So I love that moment. I am so afraid for Unique because he seems to be he's taking names and he's checking it twice and everybody's gonna get knifed. Ooh, I rhymed, yay! But that really made me like I held myself for a moment like, oh, I feel like you're in trouble. Another person who's on his list is Raquel. And Raquel and her, I'm out of the business. I'm out of the business. I wonder if Rodney is on the hunt, if Ronnie seems like he will kill anybody as long as you see and you can hear him, does that mean that Kanan is in trouble as well? So is Rodney going to come after Kanan? And therefore, Raquel has to deal with that. I wonder if there's going to be some kind of business proposition that could save her life, or she's forced to come back into the game. Because I 1000% do not believe that she is done with it. I think this is all just a front for the FBI. And she's been doing her fronts really good. She had the conversation with the two police officers who basically was trying to bribe her without saying we're bribing you. I'm interested in seeing how that plays out. And again, she's very methodical. So the theory of, you're moving too fast, I do not think applies with her. I think she's moving at that correct pace. She knows what she's doing, and she's also very aware of what her son is doing. And you saw how that was handled, which was terrible. I don't want to say she's a terrible person. I believe sometimes that she has to act this way because one, she knows more than her son, and her son is hard headed. So I don't admonish her for how she's acting. I just wonder, and here's where I kind of just talked myself out of that whole conversation of I think she's moving perfectly fine. Remember when they had the conversation at the school and it was basically saying that Child Protective Services, you have to come and meet them, and he has to come home to live with her. I wonder if something happens and that can bite back at her. Where remember they kept saying you could be arrested too. If Kanan decides to retaliate mentally wise with his mother, he can frame her with the ACH, and therefore she ends up kind of being arrested as well. So I wonder how much tit for tat we're going to do with these two characters. But other than that, I've been talking for like 800 hours. That is my main takeaways, and we'll talk about more later.
Excellent observations as always, and yeah, you're very right about the girl group and everything. Crystal's definitely very ambitious, so yeah, and that would be interesting actually if your theory about Crystal and Aisha being from what you mentioned, those singers you mentioned, like that would be interesting if that was a real connection they made. So because that could be real, that could be the inspiration. So yeah, great observations as always from Dana. And now we're gonna hear from Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. So when you're ready, Richard, hit us with your takeaways.
Okay, first and foremost, excellent takeaways by both Dana and Gary as always. Let me start by saying that, like I said, so far this season, the Raise of Kanan has been outstanding. But in my opinion, this was my most favorite episode of the season for a lot of reasons, because it felt like everything that's happening in the show, it sort of feels like something major is going to happen in the next episode. Now, for those of you who don't know, after episode 5, Stars is going to take a little break for the, because we're going to be in the new year. So there's going to be at least 1 week where we're not going to have Raise of Kanan. So if they're going to take that break, that kind of makes me feel like maybe something major is going to happen. But we have to wait and see what that actually is. But staying on this particular episode, these are the 3 takeaways that I have for everything that happened in the episode. So let me start off to go to what Dana just mentioned in her takeaways in regarding Jukebox in the girl group. I really like how they introduced these characters. And as Gary already mentioned, we did see these other 2 girls appear in the previous episode when Jukebox was at the audition. You saw them in the bathroom. So I like how they introduced the characters. I 1000% think that Dana's point about Pebbles, she is right on the money with that, because TLC was mentioned in this episode. So yes, they definitely are making it very clear this is what the connection is, how they got their information. Yeah, that's all there if you rewatch the episode. So I definitely want to see where they're going with this. I like how you both mentioned that there's going to show you she's going to deal with a lot of things with this girl group, and they're making that contrast of her thinking about signing up for the military as well. So I definitely want to see where things are going to go. It's going to be very chaotic, obviously. She gets along with one of the members, but the leader of that group, that's a very interesting character. So let's see what happens. But looking forward to that. And I also want to say that 2 things about this takeaway still. I like that we got a chance to see Kanan bond with Jukebox in this episode. The fact that she got the good news and the fact that he actually took the time and took her out to dinner, that really shows you his genuine care and concern for her, because we know in this show previously they had their ups and downs. So, but to get this moment here where you have somebody who is rooting for you, their family as well, that's an awesome feeling. If I have any friends that are successful in life, I'm also rooting for them. So I love to see that they have this whole dynamic between these characters, because we do know they're going to have some other issues in the future. But I like where they are right now, and this is great. I'm glad they put that in there. And to go to the point that was made mention earlier about Marvin, we did get to see him once again. He checked up on Gerald in this episode, and we finally got the confirmation about Gerald, because we saw the badge, the voice badge in the previous episode. Now we know that he does deal with entertainment. And as Dana said, yes, there is a connection to Jukebox, but I also would like to add, this also can be a connection to what happens with Marvin, with Lulu as well. Because in this same episode, Marvin and Lulu had that discussion. Now that Lulu has the partnership for this Cafe Vause, and Marvin is going to help him, he can easily tell Gerald about this place, and they can put it in the newspaper to advertise, talk about this is a spot that you should visit. So it works on 2 folds. But I do want to see where they're going with that, because you did also see that Marvin was talking to Lulu about, yes, we can bring some business in here. And Lulu's like, no, we don't. I don't want to do that. I want to focus on the music. Raquel did her thing anytime she was working with us. But if you're going to work with me, we need to keep it clean. No drugs, none of that stuff in there. And Marvin seemed to agree to that, because he's going to help him do this. So I look forward to seeing where this venture takes them. And I'm just glad that they're showing the development of all these characters. It makes you very curious to see what's going to happen next week. So that's my first takeaway. Second takeaway, we did see, and again, shout out to Dana for the fantastic Bettina Miller interview. Very interesting timing considering what happened in this episode with Raquel. And that's why I think it was brilliant that video was posted at that timing, because man, I don't know if I like the character. I understand the motivation of why she wants to control Kanan. This show is about raising Kanan. That's the title of the show, right? So I understand that, but I have to say the way they portrayed her in this episode and how she thought through everything. I like how they took the entire episode to explain. Like, again, this episode starts with her. Basically, she knows the feds are watching her because she just purchased that property, and she sees the guy talking to the feds, and they have an exchange back and forth with Raquel. From that point on, she decides, you know, because they do mention Kanan, right? She decides, well, I need to really watch Kanan. I need to keep a close eye on him. Obviously, he's not going to tell me anything. Famous is not going to tell me anything, so I got to take matters into my own hand. So she does break up with Unique, sends him along his way, and then she has this plan to set up and basically get Kanan to stay. And again, like Gary mentioned earlier, I like how she saw Kanan going to school through the metal detectors and say, yes, that's exactly how I will get him. And the plan worked to a T. Now, two things that are very interesting about this plan, though. Prior to this happening, Kanan had a conversation, you know, and Dana did mention that Paul showed up. He was talking to Kanan about, he said, yeah, I need money for my business. He was concerned about this. I did mention before, you know, I think that Paul character might become a problem because the thing about it is that Kanan came in, he saw what Paul was doing, then he came in and said, no, I got a better offer. I'll pay you. I'll use your couriers, all this other stuff. So in theory, Kanan's plan is working, but that is definitely going to be an issue, I think, with Paul to see what happens from here, because now that Kanan is not going to be able to stay at Famous's place, I want to see how that impacts the business. We already know that Famous is not reliable and cannot be, you know, he's going to make a lot of mistakes. He's very overwhelmed, as you both said. So I do want to see where they're going with this, because we already know it looks like it's going to be a disaster. Now, obviously, Kanan is staying with Raquel, but he's still going to have to be going over there to check up on Famous. And I do believe at some point, Famous is going to have to let him know, yeah, you know, Raquel set this in motion, you know, because Famous doesn't know what happened to Kanan yet, and at least not in this episode. So I do want to see how they're going to interact in the next episode, because clearly there's a situation going on, and Famous is like right in the middle of this. We know that Kanan will not be happy when he finds out the truth. Probably going to give Famous a beat down, much like Tariq gave a beat down to Braden last season in their show. So I want to see where that goes. But the other thing I do question is Kanan has to be suspicious. Like, I think it's very interesting when he had the conversation with Paul, where Paul says, well, I want to know what's going to happen when you go away, as if, you know, and it looked like that was a very suspect thing to say to Kanan, because Kanan said, no, I'm always going to be here. So I don't know if he's going to be somewhat suspicious of Paul, that he has something to do with this. I mean, he's going to definitely be thinking somebody set him up and he needs to find out who it is. So I want to see how that unfolds now in the next couple episodes. But also, it is interesting because you're wondering as a viewer, how is he going to get out of this situation and be able to go back to Famous's place? So I can't wait to see where things go from here. But outstanding way that they handled the story in this episode. And my final takeaway of this episode, I know Gary has been waiting for this takeaway. We saw the return and exit of Deen, a.k.a. this actor's name is Lawrence Gilliard Jr. You may have noticed him as D'Angelo Barksdale on The Wire. And I find it very interesting how this particular character, both times he died on both shows, it was because somebody came from behind. On The Wire, he got choked out from the guy while he was in the jail cell, no, in the library. And then in this show, he gets at his own place of residence. Ronnie comes out of nowhere and stabs him to death in the back. So, and of course, he had a lot of cold things to say to him as he was killing him. But the thing is this, we knew when we saw in that trailer for the next episode, and you saw Ronnie put his hands on Deen, I said, this character, he's going to take out Deen. It's just an obvious thing because you saw how much of a loose cannon Ronnie is. And I do want to give a shout out to the people that are watching this show, because I've seen plenty of memes online of the Ronnie character, people taking images of other Power shows and putting in that photo of him from the last episode where he was looking at Kanan outside as if, oh yeah, Ronnie is everywhere. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. I saw people call him Michael Myers, the hood version of Michael Myers. That is, all this stuff is awesome. I love seeing this. And again, the interview that Dana posted with Brantham and Joey Badass, who plays Ronnie and Unique, that was an outstanding interview. Glad to see people have been commenting on that. But yes, these are definitely the two most interesting characters this season. When Unique had that conversation with Ronnie, And that was the first time we've seen Unique come to Ronnie and call him out, because it feels as though this entire season so far he's been a little hesitant to really get up and really deal with Ronnie. But when he heard about what happened with Deen and the fact that Deen reached out to him, that lets you know, okay, now the tension is rising between these brothers to an even higher level. And I can't wait to see how it's going to escalate even further, because, I mean, there's a lot to look forward to. But I just want to say, yeah, overall, this was a fantastic episode. There's so many things to talk about, so many things to look forward to, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Go ahead, Dana.
I just want to say really quickly that it was hilarious that on the community board I posted the photo of Ronnie with Deen kind of yoking him, and I was like, "Is Deen okay? Are we gonna be okay?" Not knowing how everything would play out, but that just kind of to me shows the mindset of Ronnie. He works very quickly in terms of, you say no, you somehow hurt me. That same night, I'm going to come back and kill you. And this also makes me wonder, and I'm not sure if this is a question that Gary has, is he moving too fast? Because remember, we talked about the speed. He may be the one that 50 Cent is talking about in the beginning. Because he's moving too fast and things could catch up with him too quickly. You're leaving bodies. So I wonder.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Let me make a quick comment too, because I just thought of something else when you mentioned that. The other thing is that you mentioned that he had the conversation with Juliana and her brother, and obviously the brother is not interested, but Juliana, she doesn't like Raquel. I'm going to make a guess right now that once he suggests to her that Unique had something with Raquel, this is it. Now she could be the one that does tell him to do something, to make some type of action, or is, to basically work with them. So I want to see where they're going with that. But I do want to say the Ronnie character is very crazy, has all types of issues, but I'm here to see where things go with this entire thing. And I do like the fact that he has also gotten into the head of Unique's girl, because in this episode, again, see, now she thinks Unique is messing around with her, and Unique ain't saying nothing. So it's a lot of drama going on in the house right now with those characters.
Oh yeah, a lot of tension. Yeah, I just want to say, Rich, those were great, excellent takeaways as well. But yeah, Dana, I think you had something to add. Go ahead. Was you going to say something?
I was going to just bring up the Famous really quickly. I did, as you guys watched, there is an interview with Famous and Kanan. It was a roundtable interview. Well, basically, that's another interview. Anyway, point is, there's an interview. There's interviews coming, or he's either there, where he talks about finding his independence. And so I'm just wondering, because he saw what Rock was doing, and she said, "Don't get in between family stuff," and he was so angry, like you could tell that he was just disgusted overall with having to be the one to witness everything, and can't do anything, and this is not what he really wants. If you really look at it, he kept saying no to Kanan when it came to this Uber drug business right now, right? And he kept saying, this is not what I'm really into. We saw him at peace. Yes, he's smoking all the time. He's doing his raps. But at that moment, that is what brings him joy. I'm wondering, with the Raquel business being as, it could be as outrageous as it is, we got the CPS maybe getting involved. Is this a situation where we start to see him break away and be like, I love you, but I can only love you from afar? And that friendship, it doesn't necessarily mean it's ending. It's just we're separating. I'm going to go do me. I just wonder.
Well, that's actually a great question. So that could be the first question that we have here. So to be clear, the question you're asking is if Famous is going to break away from Kanan.
Yeah, because the
Right.
personalities are just they're not matching. If you just look at the two people themselves and personality wise, yes, you may be great friends, you want to be there for each other, but it's not influencing each other positively. This is not something that Kanan wants to get into with his full heart, and he also just seems to be overall disgusted by the situation at hand. Raquel is always there. They're fighting with each other. He has to be silent. Now there's the gun situation, and that brings other charges as well. CPS, we don't know, and then also, he's not 18, from my understanding. CPS gets involved, and say, for example, they're looking at Kanan. Where's Famous's people? He could be swept up. So, is this a moment where we kind of see him separate? Richard?
So that's a good question. I do think the character is going to get some independence, and he does need to have that because it feels like he needs to have that. Now, I know they had a scene in this episode where he started writing again, and that makes me think that and maybe at some point, I believe you said this on a previous episode, we're probably going to at some point see him link up with Lulu again and maybe try to get back into doing some music. So that I think is definitely something that I think he's going to look into. I think what the problem is though right now is that he's in a tough situation because if Kanan is not around, there are certain people that Kanan has been dealing with, like Simrat, so on and so forth. They like to work with Kanan directly, and that's what I want to see in the next episode. How is this going to impact what's happening with Kanan now? How is it going to impact the business that he's basically doing with Famous? Because people do not take Famous serious. Obviously, Famous is going to he's going to have some struggles. They're already trying to deal with the fact that business is growing so fast. But I do want to see. I kind of feel like, to go to the interview that you mentioned, you did say that Kanan and Famous are going to get closer this season. So I kind of feel like maybe Famous does at a certain point hold his own. He's able to take care of the business, but also do other stuff too. I kind of feel like they're going to have some type of bond, but because so many people there are so many people that do believe that this character is going to mess things up. Maybe he actually does do a good job. So I want to see where they're going with that. But that's a good question. I do think he's going to get some type of independence. I just don't know how they're going to make him do that in the show outside of him going back into doing music. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you have that. It's a music aspect of it, and then also, if you want to talk about, he did say they're going to get closer this season. Maybe he ends up telling him about what happened with Raquel. Because here's the thing, he doesn't necessarily have to have any loyalty to Raquel. That's Kanan's mother. Yes, he looks out for him and makes sure he's not dead, but overall, that's Kanan's mother. And what his mother is doing is impacting his livelihood and his happiness. And so you could look at it as whether or not he's going to tell him what happened. Because she played it off. I was expecting for this episode for her to be like, yeah, it was me. And what? But she didn't do that. She played the what? Huh? What? The gun? Oh my, I'm gonna come and get you. Look at you, you're screwing up. And that was some terrible manipulation to make him like the complete guilty. Oh God, she's awful. But I understand her, but she's awful. And so I wonder if by telling him what really happened, that in terms brings it even closer. But again, at the same time, I'm wondering, does that make an enemy out of Famous when it comes to Raquel? I don't know.
That's a great question. I know Gary did say he's going to say something soon, but let me just ask a quick question. I got to ask this question, and I asked this question for the fans as well. So when Famous eventually does tell Kanan the truth, how do you think Kanan is going to react to Famous? Do you think he's going to beat the hell out of Famous, or he's going to be like, you know what, man, thank you for telling me this. We're all good now. I kind of feel like Kanan going to be angry at Famous too.
Oh yeah, I'm back now, so I'll go ahead and answer that. He's gonna he's gonna beat Famous up. I think like he's not gonna be happy with Famous at all. Because here's the thing, he already warned him. You know, the fact that he already warned Famous, like to not listen to Raquel or let her in. If he finds out that all of this was set up by Raquel and Famous just stood by and let it happen and didn't say anything and took money from her, like yeah, he's not gonna be happy. He's gonna beat Famous up. Like he's gonna put hands on him, I think. And I had to step away, so I didn't get to answer Dana's question properly as well. Of if Famous is gonna step away from Kanan, like if they're gonna end their friendship essentially. I do see that happening. Like I see something like that happening where they grow apart, possibly. Especially if Kanan's business begins to elevate him to where like he's independent, where he can be independent, and doesn't have to rely on anyone. Because we see he's getting fresh, he's getting new kicks. He's starting to be the boss and everything, like of the couriers. He's helping people get out of jail. Like he's starting to become a boss a little bit. So the more independent he gets, the less he's even gonna need Famous. So like I do see like them two possibly growing apart at some point. But Dana, I believe you were gonna say something as well.
No, I was just wondering also, is this kind of one of the straws that breaks the camel's back in terms of Raquel and Kanan's relationship once he finds out about the gun? Is he definitely gone from the house, period? And because of, if say for example CPS does get involved, does that mean he just removes himself out of Queens? Because I'm wondering when that separation, or maybe it never even occurs, that separation. I just wonder what is going to be the fallout once he finds out that what Raquel did. Because, oh, you've been lying to me all my life. Now I have this father that I didn't know that I have before. And then now on top of that, you put a gun in my backpack, and look how that, occurred. And then you took away even though he didn't want to go to Stuyvesant, which is weird that they brought up Stuyvesant again, because if you remember in the very first season, Stuyvesant was on the table. I believe he either went to Stuyvesant, didn't like Stuyvesant, and that's when it's like, nah, I want to be in the drug gang. So it's weird to me that they would bring up Stuyvesant again when he already explored that. Was like, nah, I'm good. I don't know. Or maybe that's how long ago it's been since he's been with that counselor, which means you're not a very good counselor. Because to me, did them kids even go into the classroom? I wonder. I never see homework. I want to see some homework.
Yeah. Because oh, sorry, you go, Rich.
No, I was just going to say that's a good question. I just was going to ask, and I don't really know. This is a part of the same topic. But by Raquel making this decision, did she think about how this could impact her? Because again, they did say they were going to monitor and make sure that the both of them stay together for the foreseeable future in the next several months. So if Kanan does just decide to leave and something happens between them, how is this going to impact them when they come back and they see, oh, he's not here? Where is he at? That's something that I thought about, because they had the scene where they were both talking to that to the lady, and she made the comment, "We're going to check up on you both in the next 6 months." So I was just going to ask that question, because I don't know if Raquel thought through all of this. Obviously, she wanted to get Kanan close to her, but now she got to watch herself as well, I would think. But just a thought.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like he can't just pull away from her now, because the social workers are gonna be checking on him. Like, and if he's not around or they see him doing anything suspicious, then that he could get charged for the gun, or they could start looking into Raquel more. Like it could bring more attention to her. So yeah, like he's kind of forced to be around her for a while. And that's going to be interesting, because if he does find out that she planted the gun, he is going to be upset, and he's not going to want to be under her influence anymore. He's not going to want to be in the house. So yeah, it's going to get interesting. But Dana, you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, first of all, that bedroom looked lovely. I love how it was decorated. He's that blue was bluing. Um, but it's interesting we have the FBI, CPS, and then those two police officers basically in their business, essentially. And and they're running separate operations. So I wonder how with that, how that's all gonna play out, especially in terms of Kanan is really the loose cannon here. Raquel knows what to do and how to navigate. Kanan, understandably, is in his feelings and can act out. So I do wonder if Kanan is the one who's going to end up being Raquel's downfall. Or maybe she's perfectly fine because we don't know her ending aside from at the very end where 50 Cent said that I went to go visit my mom's. And we don't know if that means jail or if that means grave. But she's still in his heart and he still cares.
Oh yeah, yeah. She still cares, and like I said earlier, like you could make an argument that Raquel is within her rights to do some of these things because she is a mother, a concerned mother. But yeah, I guess it's all about the dishonesty behind what she's doing and the deception and stuff. So that's where the you know that's where they kind of add the nuance to it. But yeah, so speaking of Canaan, though, let's get to one of my questions now. Richard actually brought this up in his takeaways, but do you see Paulie? I mean, is it Paul or Paulie? I think it's Paul. Sorry. Is Paul going to be a risk to Canaan's business? And I ask that because obviously you see in this episode that Paul comes to Canaan concerned that he doesn't have enough couriers anymore to do his legit business to because he has deliveries to make for the legit stuff that he was doing. And Kanan kind of puts a band-aid on this situation by just giving him money, to calm him down. And he says, yeah, like, here's some money or whatever. And Paul's like, when you get locked up, I still need to be able to do my business. And, Kanan basically says, I'm not going anywhere, but he does suggest to Paul that he's going to come up with a solution to kind of free up some couriers for him, so that he could still operate his business and stuff. Now, obviously, Kanan is kind of away from the area now. He's away from the apartment now because he has to go back to Raquel. So, like Richard said earlier, I guess Kanan could maybe give Famous some direction on how to handle Paul, but I don't think that's going to go well because we've seen Famous mess up before. He messes up quite a lot. So is Paul going to actually end up being a problem for Kanan? Like, is he going to be a risk to the entire business? And how do you see that going? If it occurs. And Dana had her mic open a moment ago, so I'm gonna go to her first. What do you think about that, Dana?
Darn it, my inability to have a proper microwave. Um, I kind of mentioned this before, but I don't know, but I do think that he can be a problem. But at the same time, Raquel could be the one who swoops in, here's some money, leave us alone. Um, but I don't want Raquel always to be the solution to things. And if see, I don't. I usually would be the kind of person who would be like, okay, this is what Kanan is doing. He's gonna screw up somehow. Let him learn his lesson. But Raquel is such a hands-on parent. Even when it comes to screwing him over, she's such a hands-on parent, and she has great control issues that I really do believe that if she finds out what happens with Paul, she may have just give him money to just let him go away. And it may not be that big of a deal because her main concern is her son and being able to control her son. What we saw was a very big flex from her in this episode. Again, all about control. So I really don't think he will be a big problem, even though story wise, writer wise, I really want him to be. But then it also leaves, Paul and Famous. And how does this involve Famous? Because what impacts Kanan right now is impacting Famous. And so this makes me wonder if somehow he is going to retaliate against Famous. The apartment is gone. Somehow Famous is homeless, doesn't have, he can't go home, or maybe he does go home. I don't know. But right now, at this moment, I do believe that Raquel could just probably sweep everything under the rug.
Interesting. Yeah, Raquel is a solution to a lot of things, but yeah, we'll have to see about that. But Rich, what do you think? Any thoughts on Paul? I know you kind of mentioned him earlier. So
Yeah, I like what Dana said about what could potentially happen with Paul. I have no idea, but let me just say this: I think Paul 1000% is going to be a problem now, because the thing about it is this. Yeah, Kanan is not there. Kanan is the driving force behind his business. And obviously, we can make the comment that, yeah, Famous could definitely step up and try and take over at what Kanan is gone. That is a question that I think we're going to get an answer to as a viewer in the next couple episodes, because I don't really know to what extent that Kanan's going to be able to spend any time with Famous at the actual place. But it just feels like if Kanan, if he can't be around the place, he has to be very careful. It just feels like Paul is going to use that to his advantage to try and get what he needs to get. Because again, we did see at the beginning of this episode the interesting car chase, if you will, of them going after one of the couriers. And I thought that was a very hilarious scene, because I saw some people online talking about, man, that must be Breeze. These people need to relax with these Breeze things. We don't know who Breeze is. It ain't time to get into Breeze, but I think it's funny that they think every character that is new to the show, that got to be Breeze. Nah, son, I don't think so. But to answer your question, Gary, yeah, I think Paul is going to be a bit of an issue. I do think that if Raquel knew about the situation, then she would definitely handle it. But the fact that Kanan has not told her anything about his business means that's going to be an issue. So I do want to see how they handle that moving forward, because if he sees that Kanan is not there, I want to know how he's going to use that to his advantage in some way, shape, or form. So I guess we have to wait and see.
oh yeah, good points there. I
Go ahead,
also
Dave.
Wait.
oh,
Sorry.
sorry, I didn't see. Go ahead, Dana.
I just wonder, because Raquel is so vindictive right now, if she's actually going to let it all just, she's going to step aside in terms of the Paul situation and let him get into trouble. And then therefore he comes crawling to her and he needs her. See, that manipulation is what really gets me.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see Raquel doing that. Oh, she's so controlling. Yep, that's what I'm going with. That's the theory. I changed my theory. She's gonna burn it all. Let Paul burn it all down to the ground, and then therefore Kanan would have no other choice but to stay up under her. Evil.
Oh yeah, that's a possibility. She might see the sinking ship and just add the fuel to the fire and let it happen. But I have another theory too. Because we saw Ronnie watching from afar in the last episode. That's what they were making the memes about. And if it was possible for Raquel to see Kanan, he was talking to the boys on the bikes and everything. So even she sees that he's doing something not quite right, and he's up to something with all these couriers and stuff. So if Ronnie's able to watch him, I'm sure like he might see that Kanan's been operating something, and he like let's assume that Ronnie eventually does get some sort of connection. Maybe he'll see an opportunity with Kanan, and if that's the case, and he, maybe strikes a deal with Kanan, or maybe I don't know, manipulates his way into using Kanan's network or whatever. Paulie could be a problem then as well. like because maybe he wants to deal with Kanan, but not Ronnie. So Ronnie and Ronnie, we see he's catching bodies. So you know something could happen to Paul in that situation. If Paul is trying to get in the way of the distribution, so that could be a possible thing that happens too. Um, but yeah, we'll have to see if that pans out because we don't know if Ronnie's going to get access to any drugs or anything. But yeah, uh, I could see that possibly happening. We'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, any other thoughts on that before we get to the next question? Oh, actually, the next question is connected exactly to what I was just saying. So I might as well hop right into it. So the question is, based on what happened in this episode, do you think Ronnie is successfully going to, convince Juliana to work with him? Because things don't happen for no reason in this show. Like there has to be a reason they looked back at each other. There was that little glance there. So something is gonna happen. Like these two characters are gonna see each other again, I believe. So do you think that Ronnie is going to convince Juliana to work with him and get, that connection to the drugs and everything? So I'll go to you first this time, Rich. What do you think?
Yes, I believe that will definitely happen because Juliana, for some reason, she really does not like Raquel after all the stuff that they've been through in the previous seasons. The fact that Raquel helped her deal with her abusive husband at the time. It's just interesting to see that character just make such a dramatic turn. And a lot of the people who are fans of Razor Kanan, they've also noticed this and they don't like this character either. So it makes sense to me that the way when they had that exchange, it's like she wants to get back at Raquel and Unique. So I kind of feel like, yes, her and Ronnie have the same motive. Obviously, they want to make money. Well, Ronnie needs to make money. So that's what this is about. And again, we did see, I believe, I believe you both mentioned the introduction of the other two characters in this episode and the fact that they gave Ronnie some money to get him started as well, but they are expecting to get that money paid back. So I mean, I kind of feel like I definitely want to see where they're going with this, but they 100% are going to work together. I think we can all see that coming from a mile away, one way or another.
Yep. And if that happens, that directly puts Raquel at odds with Ronnie because we already know she's got a problem with Juliana. So yeah, it could get very interesting with the different connections and stuff. But yeah, Dana, you were gonna say something. Go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say that not only that, but we have the Raquel and Unique situation where even though they amicably and very adultly, yay them, broke it off, they still seem to be friends. If one says South Side, the other one's coming. I do believe that. So we have those two versus Ronnie, and then we do have Juliana. So I wonder if, if there's going to be some kind of showdown between those four characters. If in any way that, I feel that Raquel is a threat, then that means that they may go after Kanan as well. So that's a whole other situation there. But we're not talking about someone who's also maybe an ally, and that is, oh shoot, Stefano. I was going to say Sal, but no, Stefano. I wonder if at all Stefano was going to come back into the fold with this, because even though we did see him speak with Unique, um, he also did speak with Raquel. And remember, he was like, "Oh, you have to do this one thing for me." And even though she gave it to her brothers, he gave the mission to Raquel. So I wonder for the shooting of Sal, that was Sal, I do believe it was Sal, is somehow Stefano going to come and then help Raquel with her situation if Juliana and Unique, not Unique, Juliana and Rodney decide to show up to show out. So I don't know, but this seems to be very interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think Stefano is gonna come back into this story somehow because we know that he has the furnace as well, and I believe somebody is going into that furnace by the end of the season. So there has to be
Yes,
a
and you
reason.
can't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, that and you can't keep saying. You remember there were so many fishes analogies and swimming with the fishes. No one's swimming yet. We have to see some swims. Who's lapping around? Who is going to be Michael Phelps? We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I could definitely see something happening with Stefano because those are like the key plugs, like the connects were Dean, and then you have Juliana and her brother, and the Italians, right? Um, by way of the Chinese at the moment. So like yeah, like those are the three key players. So if if Ronnie does get with Juliana, then he's going to be at odds with the Stefano and the Italians. I would assume because maybe there's an understanding or an alliance at the moment with Deen and the others. Maybe they have an understanding, but with Deen out of the mix, that puts things in disarray now. Like I'm sure everybody's gonna pay attention to that. So yeah, but Dana, you were gonna say something.
It's also, sorry, very interesting to me that not unique, Ronnie went to all these different people. I need help. I need work. He was very straightforward. The one thing about him, he is very straightforward. I love it. Um, Everyone was like, no. Or even Pops and the girl, whose name I can't remember. One was with Wendell Pierce. The woman, her name is Erica, but I forgot the character she's playing. They seem so much turned off by the fact of working with him. I want to know what exactly did he do? Well, we know as a person he's a little off, but still, what did he do to the point where no one wants to work with him? That's the big main thing that I'm wondering. Because he was supposed to still be in prison. He just got off because of a technicality, because of the cop. What exactly is it that he did that is like everyone views him essentially as like a cancer? Stay away. We don't want anything to do with you. I don't know.
That's a good question. That's a good question. I do want to know more about his history with these characters, and I hope that we get to dive deeper into that because, even Unique in this episode mentioned that Ronnie has a specific skill set, so that goes to show that people think of him a bit as a loose cannon or, a liability in some ways. So something must have happened between him and these characters because it seemed like it took a while for them to kind of embrace him at first, to embrace Ronnie at first. Like, so yeah, I think there's some interesting history there that we'll hopefully learn about.
And if you look
uh,
at it, they technically didn't really embrace him. They were just more disgusted by him, and it seemed like, okay, here's something, but you have to get other investors as well, and we just want our money back. They never really seemed like they were excited. Remember when
yeah,
even from the beginning when they came in for the hug, and she was like, and then he was like, you know what I mean? Like no one is really, no one at all, period, is happy to see Rodney when he arrives in places. Even when he made his debut in the show, Unique was kind of like, yay, it's great to see you, brother. You're that kind of reception. So I don't. I think it's a way more than just the fact that he's socially awkward and may not be able to make friends. It just seems to me that he's a stickler for his way or no way, and if things don't run the way according to him, or maybe because he's so stuck in his mindset that it causes more damage than good. Because even when you had the conversation about, when he came in and he was in the car and he's like, well, the boys are supposed to be on the corner. Why is it so empty? And him not understanding, hey, the cops are out here. Things have changed. He is not someone who is for change. Change completely disgusts him. But I just really wanted to know what is it specifically because no one, he has no friends at all. He's feared way more than he's loved. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right about that. Something's off about him. And yeah, like because you can see they're taking a very hands-off approach by with the investment because they're not even investing all the money for him to get the drugs. They're kind of taking a very hands-off approach. They're not getting fully into bed with him, pause. They're just kind of,
Hmm.
giving him the money, a little bit of money, and hoping to get a return on it later. But then that's the only involvement they want. So yeah, this
But
he's definitely yeah. Go ahead. No, go
no, no,
ahead.
no, go. No, I was gonna just say this makes me wonder about Juliana. Maybe they're staying away for a actual reason, and it's been successful by staying away. If Juliana, because they was looking at each other and she was like, and he was like, So I was wondering if she does get involved with him, that actually may be more harmful than it is beneficial. And that's going to backfire on her, which then in turn backfires on the brother. So maybe that's how those two get eliminated.
Yeah, yeah, it could definitely backfire. To be honest, I don't see Juliana's brother lasting much longer because like, as a character, he's kind of useless. Like, he just, he just nods his head or he tells his sister to come on. He doesn't really do much. But Juliana, she's obviously more of a character to the show. Like, she brings more to the show. So I could see them kind of getting rid of the brother at some point and having Juliana be the main one in charge. Of
Are you saying he's the Miguel of the show?
Wow. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. Miguel, he has some layers. He's got some stuff going for him. But Juliana's brother, nah, he's not all that. You know. And I also real quick just wanted to shout out Tracy Lee because I believe she mentioned in the comments on the show that Ronnie has a bit of OCD, and I could definitely see that being the case because just his movements and how he rearranges things often, like, when he was at the
With the
table and he
pizza.
rearranged the cutlery and stuff, yeah, the cereal boxes and stuff, So, yeah,
Hmm.
I feel like there's something going on with him. There's you know, something going on in his head,
And
I think. Go
he
ahead.
doesn't seem to take social cues very well
Hmm.
either. Ooh, I'm not a doctor, but we're all thinking it.
Yeah. Rich, you wanted to say something as well. You got anything to add?
Oh no. I just want to say I'm looking forward to seeing where they go. I agree with everything that has been said. The character is definitely OCD. Um, so I'm just looking forward to seeing. I definitely think he's going to really align himself with Juliana, but I want to see where things go because you both already alluded to the fact and said he obviously he's moving very quickly as far as taking people out. So yeah, it makes you wonder what's going to happen next. You take out Deen in this episode. You took out the other character in the previous episode. So I don't know, man. We have to see what happens from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, just one last question, and then we'll get to final thoughts. So yeah, let's go back to Jukebox because we did talk a lot about the group already and stuff. But what what do you guys see the outcome being like? Because in this episode we see two paths for Jukebox. We see the army, the checkup that she had and everything to make sure she's not pregnant and all this stuff, and then we see that she gets into the group. So she's in the group at the moment, and that is absolutely her focus. Everyone's happy for her. We see that there's some possible tension that could come from that. We see that the manager is potentially shady. So do you guys think that Jukebox is going to end up doubling back to joining the army by the end of the season? and how do you see that going? Like what is going to be the build up to it? So that's the question. So Dana, you want to go first? Go ahead.
Um, I don't see this being very well. I'm trying to be happy, and that was like the question I think me and everyone kind of asked. Uh, Haley Kilgore, who plays Jukebox, was, "Are you gonna be happy?" Well, we see some happiness, and she was very adamant that there is going to be happiness. So, with that being said, if we're going to go the happy route, which we rarely see, and I really do hope because she deserves some happiness, even though she ends up being miserable when she's older, what if the group is successful? Just think of that for a minute. If the group is actually successful, while it may take some time for the girls to get along, because we do have egos and girls just in themselves, with my experience, are very with each other. What happens if that actually happens? What happens if she actually does find love? Just in general. I personally don't. I'm afraid of everything that I'm saying. But what if that is her happiness? Because if we looked at it before, Jukebox seemed genuinely happy when she is able to just be free. That would her love life, that how she wants to dress, with her style, her personality, just living in general. We've seen happiness moments that are slowly starting to evolve. The relationship between her and her father was just amazing. When I attended the premiere screening that they had in New York City, the audience broke out in applause when Jukebox and Marvin hugged each other, because it was such a long time coming and they finally see each other. So I'm wondering if we can keep up that same momentum, because to keep doing depression, it takes a lot out of one, the viewer, and a lot out of the character. And I think that yes, it may explain why Jukebox becomes who she is in the end, but it doesn't really add much nuance to the character. If you have just one emotion, one experience, which is just sadness and disappointment and depression, who are you as a person? You're just kind of sad and miserable, and you're just kind of copying the movie Jolene. I want to see the ups and the downs, but right now we need to see more ups than it is down. So what if we actually do have the group that is successful, that it does get along, even though Pebbles is a mastermind, not Pebbles, but the character of the Pebbles is probably going to sink everything to hell. But if for that moment the group works out, Jukebox does some kind of way find love. What if it's through a fan? Or I don't know, through something else, and she has that relationship and she's genuinely happy, and therefore Army is not necessarily a part of the plan anymore, because she went to the Army as a way of escaping from her current life that it is right now. But if she's happy, and if she finds something that she's doing that keeps her active and motivated, then there really isn't any place for Army and military, just in general. And so, what happens if we do go that route? So, I'm going to stay towards the positive as opposed to the negative, which is rare. So, accept that.
Yeah, I would like to see, some success for her and stuff. Obviously, it's, in everyone's minds, it's hard to believe just because we see where she ends up. But I would like them to throw a swerve and, maybe the group does work out for a little while. And maybe there's another reason why she ends up leaving. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. But I do think we do see a lot of layers of Jukebox, so she's not always just depressed. I understand what you're saying completely, though. It can't always be, she's down and depressed and grieving someone. We need to see more of her. We need to see more sides of her in that build up to who she becomes. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Just the fact that they keep throwing the army thing in there makes me believe that she is eventually going to end up there. And a lot of people who end up in the army, I think they end up becoming security later or even police. So that that's a good foreshadowing if she does go down that path. But Richard, what do you think? Do you think that Jukebox could potentially double back to the army by the end of this season? Like, is the group gonna disintegrate that quickly, do you think, or will they see some success first?
This is a great question, Gary. I don't think the group is going to disappear that quickly. I actually think they are going to have some success, and I think we could see Jukebox deciding to go to the army next season because they need to give her time to be a part of this group. To answer the question of, as Dana mentioned, Jukebox is going to be happy. I do believe Jukebox is going to be happy this season. I do believe that she is going to have success with these other women. I also think that she is going to find love in one of her fellow bandmates because you see that she already has a connection with the other girl that's a part of the group. So if that does happen, that could be what leads to them taking her out the group. I mean, I kind of feel like that is something that I think they're going to really touch upon because they, you made the comment earlier about when she went to go get the physical, they asked about her being pregnant multiple times. No, and they're not going to worry about that. The manager is fully aware that she is a tomboy. She has the tomboy look. I don't think she knows that she actually likes women. So I kind of feel like they may put that into this storyline at some point where she does have, because she already gets along very well with the other girl in the group. That can lead to something else. And then from there, it can be a situation where once they find out, the manager finds out, she says, oh, we're not doing that. She may try to take her out or something like that. I don't know what's going to happen. Or, which is more likely, is that it's going to be that we find out that the manager of this group definitely is a Pebbles, starts to take advantage of them in terms of the money that they're making, so on and so forth. And that would also lead to her eventually having to leave the group. But I don't think that Jukebox is going to go to the army quite yet. I think that's going into next season because we do know that the two women that they cast a part of this group, they did announce they are going to be a part of next season also. So they're going to definitely give this group some time to gel together, and then you'll see the ups and downs they go through. But I definitely think Jukebox by the end of next season, maybe, yes, she could end up going into the army, depending on what actually happens as far as what's happening in her family and what happens with this group. That's just my guess, though.
I would like that. I would like if the group is successful and the story plays out into next season, and it takes a while before she actually gets to the army. Because like Dana said earlier, like I want to see some of that, juicy behind the scenes kind of, gossip that happens with the music industry and stuff. So I want to see some of that Pebbles stuff play out. And I feel like we need like more than a season to kind of see all of that. So yeah, I would like if they kind of make this group last a little bit so that we could see the different dynamics of the music industry. And then, as you know, like Lulu is also, he's setting up this club. He wants people to be able to perform and everything. So it would be cool if we see it all come together to where, the family is involved in the music business, like, where Lulu has like a platform for people to perform and Jukebox is, actually in a group. Because I guess this is part of like the family history as well, because we know that their father, Lulu's father, was involved in the music industry also. So it would make sense for them to kind of have the music be a big part of the family. So I would like it to stay this storyline to stick around for a little bit. But Dana, Richard put his hands up, so. Which
well, okay, yeah, I was going to say real quickly. You did mention the family business. You did mention Lulu. I just want to say, I did like how in this episode they have the conversation between Marvin and Lulu, because Lulu said he felt bad that he missed out on Jukebox audition. But everything that Dana said last week was 100% correct. They needed to have the moment where Marvin spend time supporting and showing love to his daughter. So I definitely understand that. But I'm also thinking too now that if Lou does start to have some success, maybe he will extend the invitation to that group to make an appearance at the club. And that will be how he tries to mend fences with Jukebox again. I mean, I don't know. But I guess it all depends how things progress with the actual girl group. But that's all. That's the only point that I was going to make.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I would find it interesting with the dynamic that we have with the main girl. I think it was Aisha, right? Who was like the I'm the star
Crystal
of
is
the
the
group.
main one. Crystal's the
Okay,
main one.
sorry.
Aisha's the other girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, what's interesting with Crystal, and we've seen this before with countless other groups of people thinking that they're the lead and in actuality ends up being someone else. Crystal is very talented, yay her. But here's the thing: Jukebox is working her two, her father and her what is it, nephew? No, what do you call it? I forgot the relation. Is it nephew? No, it's not nephew.
Hmm?
Uncle. I'm sorry, I blanked out completely. I'm like, oh, it's nephew. Uncle. Sorry. So with the relationship between her father and her uncle being in the music business, and technically, somewhat was successful until everyone went to death, but would that give her an advantage? And therefore, she could be the leader. Don't know. Speculating. But just because you have talent, great. But you need more than talent to be successful. If you looked at how, for example, Destiny's Child, right, was operated. Yes, Beyonce was always set forth to be the lead, but she had so many other things that was behind her, backing her, where she had the father who was in the music industry and she had so many people that she was able to, help her and support her with her dreams and her goals. With the fact that Marvin and Lulu easily want to back her. But if she was to say, I need your help, they would both come running, hopefully, when it comes to Lulu. But they would both come running. I wonder if that will give her an advantage, and therefore we see that power struggle between her and Crystal, and we end up with her actually being the lead of the group. I don't know. Because it's very easy for her, like, oh yeah, she's on the side, on the sidelines. But the show I felt spent so much time showing us how gifted she is and how talented she is. I don't think it was just to make her one of the other side girls. I think that it was to make her the Beyonce of the group. And it's going to just have to be a power struggle and a dynamic. And maybe we do see people leave because with Destiny's Child, people left. So we don't know. And the whole thing of, oh, how did she become a police officer? Maybe it was, she had the music business and how people who originally started out in the limelight and they just fade away. They're still talented, but, things don't exactly work out where they remain on top. And that's what I wonder ends up happening to her. We've seen that so many times with, I was in this group or I was the single act with this and then I had that dead hit. Yeah, then what happened? Oh, I grew up and I had kids and I'm a stay-at-home mom or I work in real estate. And that could actually be the path instead of something that's so, sad, maybe.
Yeah, good point. I could see there being a power struggle, or like I definitely see Jukebox and Crystal butting heads a little bit at some point, like just because they're such strong characters. I could see those two facing off in some kind of way, and yeah, if Jukebox is able to utilize her connection with Lulu to get them to perform, Crystal might feel slighted by that, like by the fact that, Jukebox has connections and, things like that. So that could definitely be something that happens. But yeah, so did you have anything else to say on that, Rich, before we get to final thoughts? Just checking.
Oh no. Oh no.
Okay,
I'm good.
cool. So yeah, let's get to our final thoughts now. So is there anything else at all in this episode that we might not have mentioned? I know we didn't talk about Howard a whole lot. So that's one thing. But yeah, anything else at all you think that should be mentioned? This is the time to do it. And yeah, I mean, regarding Howard, my only thing is I feel like the feds that are in the office are on his scent. They're on his scent. They know that something isn't adding up. That's why they called him in to kind of feel him out and ask him, are you sure about this Crown dude? Like, is he really the one that did all of this stuff? Like, they know something isn't adding up, and that's why they said that line. This seems to be a common theme in Southside, where things are just theories and speculation. So yeah, he's gonna have a tough time when they start to chase up some of these leads and find out how he's connected to everyone. So yeah, that's the only thing I have on Howard. Richard just put his hand up, so I'm going to him next. So Rich, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback right off of what you said, because they also asked him, well, what happened with your shooting? Did we ever find the suspect, the person who did that? So yeah, you're 100% correct. Our boy Howard, aka Omar Epps, is in trouble, and I want to see what happens. Even with this situation with Kanan, he did make sure that they didn't press any charges with the gun, but he did tell Raquel at the end of this episode, "Don't call me no more about any of this other, about anything else." So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Howard. But that's what I was going to say. Overall, though, I thought the episode was fantastic, and I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Go ahead, Dana.
For me, I just want to just jump back real quick because I just had a thought in terms of the jukebox situation of her actually probably being the star of the thing. One of the big things that was behind kind of all the big groups just in general that you need in order to succeed is media. Gerald, hi, entertainment editor, or wherever with the voice, hi, him writing articles, pushing her out even further. That's how she ends up probably being the lead. It's like, oh, I don't really want this, but I'm going to take this anyway. Look, they like me. And that's how we see her being more successful. Now, going back with the question that you asked, what I find is interesting that nobody is bringing up is the fact that Howard says, I'm out, in terms of speaking to Raquel. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out. Remember, he said, this is the last time that I'm covering for you and the boy. With that being said, we do have police officer Buckley and Rollins, who were the two guys who was bothering Raquel after she opened her business and was basically bribing, like, we know you have a son. I wonder how these three dynamics are going to come into play, because her thinking, Howard could come and rescue me in terms of police to police. Is he going to be there for her and for her son? I don't know. I don't see her backing away from helping Kanan when he really actually needs it in terms of Rollins and Buckley. Therefore, I wonder how those three cops dynamics is going to play out. That should be very interesting as well. And yeah, so that was kind of like the main thing that I wanted to say with that. I do have another question though. That is maybe like a little fun question that really popped out to me. We saw the personality of Rodney, right? And we see how once he gets a thought into his mind, he's unstoppable. Anybody that crosses him is unstoppable. Question is this: Lamar versus Ronnie, who would win?
Can I answer that question first?
Go ahead.
Ronnie, 1,000%. Because Lamar is a crack fiend now. He ain't got no chance.
Pre-crack. Like prime Lamar. Pre-crack.
You mean BMF season 1 Lamar?
Yeah, when he was like, I want my daughter. That version.
I still have to go with Ronnie because he doesn't need to say too much. It's a silent killer. And when he kills somebody, it's a very brutal killing. So it would be a hell of a showdown, no? I mean, I would love to see that now that you said that, but I am also curious to know what everybody listening to this show thinks about that. Who would they take in that particular showdown? If you watch BMF, let us know. But Gary, what's your answer to this question? Because we do know that Lamar is a fellow UK native, so I want to see, are you going to root for him or are you going to root for Ronnie?
Oh yeah, that is he's a great actor, the dude who plays Lamar, for sure. But in terms of who I'm gonna pick, I'm gonna have to go with Ronnie because like that singing voice that Lamar had with "You Can't Stop the Rain," that's not gonna work on Ronnie. He's gonna look right through him. Like he's just gonna keep, staring right back at him, like unfazed when he sings. So he's not even gonna be scared in the slightest when he sings "You Can't Stop the Rain." So I'm picking Ronnie. Like, he did. This dude is just he's a different level of psycho. Like, he really is Michael Myers. Like, so I'm going with Ronnie.
And just based on what you just said, I'm just going to lay this last comment. I will go so far enough to say when Tommy Egan, they have this whole thing about Tommy Egan canceling Christmas. That was meant for this character because this character it just feels like this character. He does not care. He will take someone out. So that's why, I have to say Ronnie because this very unstoppable character. And again, very silent. So that it makes him a lot more deadly. So
So what you guys are saying is that it's really Freddy versus Mike Myers. That's the movie you want to see.
yes.
Wait, what did you say? Freddy versus who? Versus
Mike
Jason?
Myers.
Mike Myers.
Oh, yeah. That's
Halloween.
That's what I want to see.
So he's canceling Halloween. Boom. No, I think I have to kind of go with Ronnie because he doesn't talk. You never know what he's thinking. And while they're both kind of unstoppable, I feel that Ronnie, he's so analytical that he can outsmart you that way. And you never see him or hear him coming. So I have to go with Ronnie as well. Darn. And I love Lamar. Lamar is great. Rest in peace, Lamar. Enjoy that crack. Yeah, so that's kind of one of the things that just kind of stuck out to me overall was, Howard's situation with his son and the fact that we do have Buckley and Rollins, and I wonder if we're going to see the end of him, those two, if that was just the end, or will they be someone who's going to just be a pain in everyone's thorn later on?
Okay, yeah. So that's gonna be it for this week. This is the last episode of before Christmas. So we will be back next week, of course, before the New Year. But yeah, I hope everyone has happy holidays. Great Christmas and everything. Enjoy your time with your family. Make sure you eat loads. And yeah, we'll be back on the other side. And I do want to give a few shout outs quickly. I'll go to you guys and see if you got shout outs as well. But I want to definitely shout out, Rainy J, some of the people who always comment, Rainy J, Tracy Lee, and SJ Smith, and Cresta Zero also. And I also want to give a big shout out to DJ, Dimitri, friend of mine, friend of the show, and also to MovieBot, who has a YouTube. He also talks about power, so big shouts to all of those people. And Richard, how about you? You got any shout outs for us?
Yes, I also would like to give a shout out to all of our regular commenters, like you said, Tracy Lee, Rainy J, Jeremiah Lutumba, so on and so forth. I just want to give a shout out to all of you. Thank you for taking the time to check out these reviews. And I definitely hope that you have a safe and happy holiday season, Christmas. And of course, like I said, like Gary said, we will be back next week for the next episode. But yeah, I just hope you all have a great holiday season. And we look forward to talking about the next episode with you all very soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dana.
just want to say thank you to everyone who comments and watches the show, and thank you for liking the interviews. That means a lot. Yay, there's more to come. We have coming up, and also on the other channel we have a bunch of other interviews with a lot of different casts. We have basically everyone from the star of Oprah to the janitor from The Color Purple. We have all those interviews are up if you're interested in that. We do have an interview regarding Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which may be the worst movie of the year, but we have those interviews as well. And we have a lot more that's coming up. We do have Iron Claw and all those other things. So if you do like interviews too, check out the other channel, which is the Coalition Entertainment YouTube channel. And, keep watching us and thecoalition.com. There's way more to come. So yay, and it's award season, which means I have no sleep.
Oh yeah, Dana's always going hard with the content and all the entertainment stuff. So yeah, I hope you find some rest though over the holidays for real. But yeah, that is going to be it. Happy Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays, and we'll see you next time. Peace.